Around 5.5 million people worldwide have died of COVID since the pandemic began nearly 2 years ago. More than 830,000 of those have died here in the U.S., more than any other nation, with around 1,500 dying every day right now. And yet somehow, far fewer people are paying attention. One exception from the start has been Alex Goldstein. Since March of 2020, his Faces of COVID Twitter account has been sharing the names, pictures, and memories of many of those we've lost from across the nation. Like Lowell's own Alex Chagwan, whose family will miss her smile, sense of humor, stubbornness, and willingness to fight. 62-year-old Alonzo Eldridge of Syracuse, who had a big personality, a deep love for his family, unmatched resiliency, and a passion for sports. 47-year-old Andrew Jenkins from Allentown, Pennsylvania, whose witty and whimsical sense of humor will forever have friends and family laughing. And 78-year-old Jimmy Fleming, was from Manchester, New Hampshire, whose family says he was their own superhero. Just a few of the many names and faces which appear on that Twitter account each day in an effort to remind us of the real people behind those unimaginable numbers. But in recent days, that effort, like so many others in the COVID battle, has been targeted by hateful trolls. Here to talk about them and whether he will carry on is Alex Goldstein. Alex, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks again for having me on. I appreciate it.
Can you explain to people why you started this thing in March of 2020?
Yeah, I think, like a lot of folks, I was really having difficulty processing what was happening around me and felt like we needed a space both to affirm the basic dignity of the lives of the people that we were losing so that they were more than just simply a statistic, and also a space to create some accountability for our epic policy failures that have now led to a number of people lost that I don't think either of us could have imagined the first time I came on to talk about this back in 2020.
And also, needless to say, in those times, and to an extent now, we weren't able to go through the traditional mourning things that we go through for those whom we love. And I found this to be a wonderful, I wouldn't say replacement, but a piece of that. What kind of reaction, I'm sure we could all guess, but what kind of reaction did you get through those first year plus from not just the people whose loved one you were honoring, but from people in general who had lost someone to COVID?
Well, let's start with those folks whose loved ones are lost. I think you just really hit a really important point, which is with the lack of communal space to grieve, the wakes, the funerals that would have normally had a community come together and say goodbye, the digital space to some extent becomes all we have, especially when we're grieving in a communal sense for strangers that we never knew. And what I heard time and time again from folks was that even having a stranger say in a reply, "I'm so sorry for your loss. I didn't know them, but they meant something, and I'm sorry," actually was impactful. And then I think for everybody else, it was a place to express that grief. We're all holding it. We're all experiencing, we're watching it happen around us. And to have a space where we can actually show a bit of compassion and care for our neighbors is actually, I think, cathartic for us and meaningful for us as well.
Well, I should say, and meaningful for you. I know you did it on your way to bed and then when you woke up the next day. And for those who don't know, by day, you work for governors and mayors and you're a fairly busy guy. So when did these problems start? And can you describe them a bit, if you would?
Sure. I mean, throughout the pandemic, people have been overwhelmingly compassionate in response to the stories shared on the feed. And sort of inexplicably, in the last couple of days, there's been a pretty major influx on the submission form that we use to collect these stories where families can submit their loved ones. There's been a whole bunch of posts coming in that are at best kind of just bogus fakes meant to misdirect and disrupt, and at worst, some pretty aggressively anti-Semitic and racist content as well. So it's been a little bit disturbing, but to some extent, Jim, I feel like whenever you have a growing and visible social media presence that covers really challenging issues, it's unfortunately become par for the course to get a certain level of abuse and toxicity. And to some extent, I've been surprised at how little we've received up until now. And so unfortunately, I can't say I'm really surprised.
So why now? Why now do you think? I mean, it doesn't surprise me either. It surprises me, as you tweeted and just said, that it took so long, considering everything is a war around COVID. Why now?
I have a feeling that it's mostly because a group of trolls finally realized this project was out there and it was ripe for disruption. I don't think it helps from the anti-Semitism lens that I'm pretty publicly and unabashedly a Jewish guy, progressive guy from Boston that devotes a lot of energy and takes this really seriously. That makes a pretty easy target. But I think that what I'm trying to do is really split the balance between addressing this issue, but also realizing that there are, even today, like right before I came on, I received a message from somebody saying, I saw that the forum is disrupted. I want to share my loved one's story. And so people are still finding ways to share those. And that's what I want the focus to be. I don't want to give these folks a platform because I'm sure this is exactly what they're looking for.
For those who haven't been there yet, the only thing I can analogize this to is after 9/11, the brilliant work the New York Times did with those small photos and bios on thousands and thousands of people. And you really, we know how these people died, but we don't know anything about how they lived. And you share that with us, which I think is a huge thing for everybody. Before you go, are you changing anything, or is it full speed ahead and you don't like it, but what's the deal?
So right now, folks can still submit stories by reaching out directly to me. My messages are open, and hopefully that doesn't become a new receptacle for abuse. The form that we have does ask for citations where people can place obituaries to show to back up the submission. But at the same time, I'm not really interested in making people prove it. I'm just going to have to keep my eye on it. But I'm not stopping, and I'm not going to give these folks the satisfaction of knowing that they were able to disrupt the space, because this space is meaningful. And unfortunately, 2 years into this pandemic, it's pretty clear that we have a long way to go, and there's going to be a lot more stories to tell. And I think ultimately this is about telling the history of this pandemic accurately. And I'm not going to let somebody derail that just because it's fun for them to mess with people online. So
I'm glad to hear it, and you've done it beautifully, and I'm really glad you're going to keep at it. Alex, it's good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Jim. Appreciate it.